in Dubuque. I went to Sacred Heart Grade School, and I went to Wallard High School. I was working at the time at a grocery store, at Eagles Grocery Store up in Asbury, and getting in a little trouble when I was out of high school, and I decided, well, I might get drafted pretty soon. I guess I wasn't thinking real well because I decided to go down and enlist in the Army, you know. I volunteered for 2 years because that was the shortest time I was going to get drafted eventually, but joined April 18th, 1970. I caught pneumonia after I was in basic training for like 3 weeks. So I had to go to the hospital, and they wouldn't release me until I was completely clear, my lungs and stuff. And so I had to get recycled. And I was teed off, to tell you that. You know, nobody wants to get recycled. I got through all that, and I thought, well, I should be getting a 30-day leave, you know. And no, I had to go to Fort Lewis for advanced infantry training. So I stayed right there. I was sort of teed off about that too, you know. It's the first time really I've been away from home for that long, and I was just a young kid. Straight from advanced infantry training, I got my leave, went home for 30 days, and straight to Vietnam. Yeah, Vietnam was scary at first for me. I mean, I was really scared. Got off that plane and I don't want nothing to do with this. Did I sign up for this? You know, I didn't know what I was getting into. But, well, if you were 26 or 27 years old in Vietnam, you were old. Most of the guys, like I was 19, 20. We went for, I think it was 5 days of training or something. They taught you how to walk and talk, what not to do, yeah. A lot of what not to do. Then I went to the 25th Infantry. That was right around Saigon towards the Cambodian border. Our base was in Cu Chi. There was a base there, which wasn't too far from Saigon. I ended up as a point man, you know, walk out in front of everybody. The first day I was there, I mean, it was, you know, it's blazing hot. First day out in the jungle, I started getting heat stroke, you know, and I mean, I just went down and they stopped then, and we just didn't go any farther that day, but got pretty sick for a day or so, and then I was better than the next day. Had a big machete, and they'd usually have to cut your own trail because we didn't want to follow trails because that's where the booby traps were. You know, you'd look for enemy and any trace of that they'd been there, or either Viet Cong or NVA. You never knew. There wasn't much difference. The NVA would wear uniforms. The VC, they just wore whatever they had. And we were looking for booby traps. There was a lot of booby traps. They were real simple. Like they'd take a hand grenade and tie a piece of fish line or something in the ring that you pull. And so they just lay that fish line right across the trail. Garbage laying around, they could put a booby trap in an old sea ration can and set that out there, and there's quite a few tunnels. But we never went in them. We were towards the end of the war, and they said, no, we aren't going in any tunnels. They were pretty good size because some of them would be like a hospital, you know, or they do different things with them there. They hide, and mainly from the planes, you know. We threw hand grenades down them usually. I was right next to a guy. Well, they always told you, you know, never go and try and pick something up. Well, he saw something on the ground. He went to pick it up, and it blew up in his face, you know. And that was the first guy I saw that blew up. I was pretty scared that day. you'd never hear what happened to the guys. They'd just send them home, or they'd send them, they get hurt. You don't know if they lived or died after. Well, sometimes you knew. But, you know, like when I was there, well, after 7 or 8 months, I got transferred to a port. What was it, Quinyon? Up, it was farther north, like in the middle of the coast, and I had to supervise these Vietnamese unloading ships for a couple months. You were pretty safe where we were at. It was like, after being in the jungle, that was like being downtown, you know. Like right where we were at, right at the port there, they had all these people were living on boats. They just did whatever they could to selling different stuff, or, you know, they seemed to have a way of getting cigarettes. They'd trade. I remember we had a lot of cools. Nobody wanted to smoke cools. And like Camels and Luckies, and in them days, they'd give them to you. You know, you'd get as many cigarettes. You'd get 2 or 3 packs, and then there'd be cigarettes inside all the sea rations. There'd be a little box with 3 or 4 cigarettes in them. And so they sort of condoned smoking back then, you know, not like today. But most of the sea rations, there was no expiration date on these cans or anything, you know. It's just, and like a lot of it, you could, I mean, it was from like the Korean War and World War II. You know, they didn't have any expiration dates then, and just, but it was pretty crappy food. I think they had like a can with beef and noodles in it. That was probably one of the best ones. And then, of course, they had beans and franks and some other stuff that wasn't, we won't talk about it. There's a guy from Guttenberg, he was a Hafel, but he got captured and he was in the prison camp for like 5 years. We never knew, I mean, they never showed us the maps or something. The lieutenant had a map. We didn't know where we were at. We knew we were in Vietnam, but we could have been in Laos or Cambodia or anywhere, you know, because they just drop you off in a helicopter and, well, you go this way. And you never know how long you were going to be walking or where you were going, or, you know. This was toward the end of my tour. I went from one company to another, and I wasn't walking point this day, but we were walking down this trail, and I seen a frag laying on the ground right there, and I said, I'm not walking by that. I said, you gotta, you know, we got to take care of that before I walk by there, because you could, a lot of times you wouldn't see the wire or nothing, you know, and that, just like the guy bending over, and they always told you never pick nothing up, you know, that you didn't know what it was, because they'd have it booby trapped or something. And they like to sneak up on you though and turn the claymores around. I don't know, they're just little square things, and they're full of like what I would describe as shotgun pellets. And there was like 2,000 of them in this claymore mine. So at night you'd set them around your perimeter wherever you set up your ambush at, and we weren't getting like contact, we'd call it, every day, but you know, you never knew when you might get it or who might shoot at you. I mean, so a couple times we had South Vietnamese shooting at us. I don't know if they didn't know who they were shooting at, or, you know, you never really knew. And they were sort of, they could be on either side sometimes. I mean, we tried to avoid a lot of things that normally, if it was just going on, we would have done something, but sometimes we just go around it or something, because the lieutenant said, we don't need to be the last ones to die in Vietnam. You know, I'm so blessed that I made it through and got all my digits and stuff. This is another thing about, you know, when I went to Vietnam, my uncle had been in Korea and he got captured and he had PTSD real bad, and he ended up killing himself. So my mother was just petrified that I was going, and I thought I was going to be smart and not tell him I was going to Vietnam. Oh, I don't know where I'm going, but I was going to San Francisco. I'm sure they knew exactly where I was going. I just didn't want to get her riled up. But they preferred you take off your uniform before you went home because they were getting harassed so much. And, well, it was a little bit of a culture shock for sure after, you thought, oh, it's so bad in Dubuque, a terrible place. Why would anybody want to live there? But you come back, boy, this is great, And all our friends had no clue that the ones that didn't go, they had no clue about, anything about it. No parades, no, there was no, till I think we had a parade about 15 years ago, somewhere in Dubuque, that they had a parade for the Vietnam veterans, but it was a long haul before you didn't get treated very good, Well, the Legion sort of looked down on us at that point. They didn't think Vietnam was a war. It's like 56,000 casualties, and it's not a war. But, they just sort of pissed us off and didn't treat us right. And even the guys from Korea, they didn't think much of that either. I don't know. I guess World War II was the war, and they were all sort of into that. And there was a lot of. Now they're, you go to the American Legion, they're begging for people to join. Any military, even down at the Veterans Center, we got. It's hard to get younger people to join. And I guess when I look back, I didn't want to join nothing when I came home. I started going to school. I went to Loris for a couple months, but I never went to school, or I didn't go. I'd go down to the Brothers 3 downtown and drink beer and party. But I went through quite a few different jobs, and it wasn't that I wasn't a good worker, it's just I didn't want to work. But I think I was trying to catch up for that year I lost, that you sort of grow up way too fast. When you came back, at first there wasn't really anybody. And now that we had this, Pat Flynn is who I got connected with. And he was a real good guy, and we related, and we got in groups and stuff and started having PTSD groups, and I finally ended up going to Tomah, Wisconsin for PTSD treatment. So that wasn't until 2008. And they told me in 1986 that I had PTSD or PTSD. I went up and talked to them, but I couldn't get in because I was in trouble again. But they wouldn't let me in because they had a legal issue going on. And I got through all that, and I got a job and stuff and started settling down a little bit. And I finally went to see Pat Flynn, and I did AA for many years, and that helped a lot. When I quit drinking, then I was able to get a job and hold on to it. And we try and help other veterans at the Veterans Center is our main goal. Is if somebody needs help and sort of falls through the cracks, we try and get them set up with something, or then we'll help them if we can. But we've still got a lot of veterans committing suicide, and that's not it's not good, and it's not acceptable. The biggest challenge for Vietnam vets is we're dying, pretty fast right now. Now we're, the next one's Korea. Korean vets, there ain't many of them left anymore in the World War II. My father-in-law was in World War II, and he never got any benefits or anything until I told him to go, and he went down, and he ended up, he got like $600 a month for the rest of his life. But he didn't live that much longer, but he probably could have got more, but he was 90 years old when he went.